When you think of government experiment, what images come to mind? If Google image search is any indication, it might conjure up thoughts of comic book super soldiers, conspiracy theories, mutated animals, and even the unexpected appearance of country music singer Kenny Rogers. Do you harbor skepticism towards modern medicine or the government in general? While it's uncertain whether this fear is warranted, government experiments are not uncommon. There are enough of them to compile a list of the top 10 scariest examples. At number 10, we delve into the Cold War era, a time marked by scientific optimism despite the looming threat of nuclear conflict. In the 1966 film, The Frozen Dead, scenes featuring living disembodied heads captivated audiences, reflecting a fascination with the macabre and the possibilities of science fiction. During the 1950s and 60s, amid space exploration and DNA discoveries, the notion of human head transplants emerged following successful organ transplants. This concept, though morbid, intrigued many as a potential frontier in medical science. The historical fascination with survival after decapitation dates back to ancient times, evolving through events like the French Revolution and the scientific endeavors of the mid-20th century. Surgeons such as Charles Guthrie and Vladimir Demikhov conducted pioneering experiments on animals, paving the way for further exploration. Notably, neurosurgeon Robert J. White's experiments, funded by the US, pushed boundaries by transplanting brains between animals. His 1970 experiment, grafting the head of one rhesus monkey onto another's body, epitomized the ethical dilemmas and scientific curiosity of the era. Alright, number 9 takes us to Japan's Unit 731, highlighting that the US government isn't the sole entity engaged in dubious activities. Japan's actions during the 1930s and 40s involved extensive medical testing on civilians across multiple countries, notably China. These experiments, which claimed the lives of potentially 200,000 people, included deliberately infecting individuals with diseases like cholera and typhoid, among other atrocious methods in the pursuit of medical knowledge. Even more grotesque experiments involved subjecting prisoners to sub-zero temperatures, causing their eyes to pop out in pressure chambers before being dissected alive. Although the US wasn't directly involved, it chose to keep these experiments secret to maintain Japan as a Cold War ally, marking one of the darkest chapters in Japanese history. At number 8, we encounter the bizarre case of Acoustic Kitty, a project undertaken by the US Central Intelligence Agency during the 1960s. Amid the Cold War tensions between the US and the Soviet Union, espionage took center stage, leading to unconventional attempts at intelligence gathering. The CIA invested over $10 million in 5 years into training a cat for espionage purposes, outfitting it with surgically implanted listening devices, a battery, and an antenna in its tail. However, the impracticality and ethical concerns surrounding the project soon became apparent. Despite further attempts to refine the technology, the project ended tragically when a cat was fatally injured during a field test, dashing under a taxicab. The revelation of Acoustic Kitty's existence shocked the American public when related documents were declassified in 2001, highlighting the extremes to which intelligence agencies were willing to go in pursuit of their objectives. Today, the story serves as a cautionary tale about the ethical implications of animal experimentation and the folly of trying to turn household pets into spies. At number 7, we dive into a fascinating mix of zero-gravity, black budgets, and UFOs, where history meets conspiracy in a swirl of secrets and speculation. When we talk about secret Nazi experiments, it's usually a wild ride, from the horrors of the Holocaust to far-out conspiracy theories about hidden bases and UFOs. But British journalist Nick Cook thinks there's more to it than meets the eye. In his book, The Hunt for Zero Point, Cook explores the idea that the Nazis were dabbling in anti-gravity research, playing with zero-point energy. He suggests that Allied pilots might have stumbled upon some of this technology, mistaking it for unidentified Foo Fighter aircrafts. And get this, he even thinks some post-war UFO sightings could be tied to US and Russian projects based on Nazi know-how. It's a wild theory, sure, but Cook's background in journalism and his insight into black budgets give it some serious credibility. Plus, with Boeing and NASA working on gravity shielding technology today, who knows what secrets the past might hold? At number 6, we venture into the realm of space exploration and the tantalizing prospect of space sex, a topic that's more awkward than it's glamorous. Space experiments have always been a bit odd, from sending doomed chimps into orbit to treating weightless spiders to fancy dinners. But at the pinnacle of pulp science fiction dreams lies the concept of space sex. In 2000, French astronomer Pierre Collier stirred headlines with claims that NASA had studied 10 low-gravity sex positions during a 1996 space shuttle mission. The Russians allegedly delved into human docking procedures as well. While the idea of intimacy in space may seem far-fetched, studies on the effects of space on reproduction have been ongoing since the early days of space exploration. Cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova's 1964 pregnancy sparked curiosity about space's impact on human fertility. Her daughter, born healthy, added a new chapter to space medicine. As for the future, proponents argue that prohibiting sexual activities on long-term manned missions would be impractical. So, while space sex may sound like science fiction, it might not be as far off as we think. At number 5, we dive into the realm of the psychic Cold War, where the US and Soviet Union battled not only with weapons and space exploration, but also with paranormal forces. During the 1970s, the US Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency reportedly poured millions into a psychic spy program to rival Soviet research into telepathy. Imagine a world where submarine crews communicate telepathically or cosmonauts use precognition to navigate space. Both nations invested heavily in paranormal research, with the US focusing on psychology and the Soviet Union on biological and physical theories. Despite DARPA's conclusion that the program failed, the psychic Cold War remains a curious chapter in history, leaving us to ponder the mysteries of hypnotists and spoonbenders. Number 4 delves into the disturbing realm of radiation effects on testicles, a harrowing tale of exploitation and medical experimentation. In the 1960s and 70s, prisoners in Oregon and Washington became unwitting subjects in these studies, lured by promises of cash and parole. Subjected to staggering doses of radiation without full disclosure of the risks, they endured irreversible harm to their reproductive organs. Years later, the truth emerged, leading to a $2.4 million settlement for the victims. This tragic episode serves as a stark reminder of the ethical pitfalls inherent in scientific research, highlighting the need for rigorous oversight and informed consent. It also underscores the vulnerability of marginalized populations like prisoners, who may be coerced into participating in experiments without adequate protection or recourse. Moving on to number 3, the Fallout Radiation Study of 1954 examined the impact of significant beta and gamma radiation exposure due to fallout from high-yield weapons testing. This study stemmed from a nuclear study that unexpectedly exposed many individuals to radiation. The government then capitalized on the accident to observe the severity of the injuries caused. The delayed yet severe effects included hair loss, skin damage, and brain injuries. At number 2, unethical syphilis experiments were conducted in Guatemala between 1946 and 48 by US Public Health Service researchers. Prisoners and mental asylum patients were deliberately infected with a disease to test for preventive chemicals. Shockingly, methods included paying prisoners to engage in intercourse with infected sex workers and injuring their genitals to apply infected bacteria. Though the prisoners received penicillin as treatment, they were kept uninformed about the experiment. Finally, number 1 delves into human experimentation in North Korea, where horrifying accounts emerged from defectors. Allegedly, the government conducted experiments that included poisoning 50 female prisoners with cabbage leaves, performing surgeries without anesthesia, and using prisoners for target practice after severe beatings. Mass murders with gas chambers were also reported, with routine abductions of 40 to 50 people monthly for experimentation. These atrocities underscore the depths of human cruelty, especially when sanctioned by governments. Before we wrap up, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on the ethical implications of the various experiments we've discussed today? How do you think we can ensure that scientific research upholds ethical standards while still advancing knowledge and innovation? Your insights and suggestions are valuable, so feel free to share them in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next video.